Hi, friends. I am Cazoshay Marie. I am the creator and moderator of Resilient Roots Support Group for parents living with brain injury. I thought it might be a good idea to record the webinar portion of our November 2024 meeting that is all about navigating the holidays as a parent living with brain injury. I thought it would be nice to make it available on our YouTube page for anyone who's not able to attend the meeting live. If you are a parent living with brain injury, or I think this advice is great even if you are not a parent, or also honestly, if you don't even have a brain injury, because dealing with the holidays, there can be a lot of stresses, there's a lot of big feelings, transitions, changes. So, how do we deal with all that? And so, this webinar addresses some of that. And so, I'm not a technology person, so we'll see how this goes. I'm going to attempt to share my screen and share the little presentation that I have for you guys. So let's go to share screen, go to my PowerPoint here. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing the right thing right now. We'll see once I actually, I guess, upload this onto the YouTube page. But so again, the theme is how to navigate the holidays as a parent living with brain injury. And just a little introduction about me. In 2017, I was struck by a car traveling 48 miles per hour as I was crossing the street in downtown Phoenix. I sustained numerous injuries, one of the primary ones being a traumatic brain injury. I am a single mom. The accident happened just shy of my son's 11th birthday. He's now in college. He's an amazing young man. He helps me so much. He actually became a caregiver to me during the course of my time healing from the brain injury. And even now, he helps me out so much. So he's a huge blessing to me. So that was kind of the inspiration for why I started Resilient Roots. So the first thing we're going to talk about is one of the biggest challenges of being a parent trying to get through the holidays, and that is setting realistic expectations. One of the most important aspects of navigating the holidays as a parent living with brain injuries is to adjust your expectations to fit your current abilities and limitations. And sometimes people kind of have a problem with the word limitations because, it can kind of have negative connotations. But honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing. Everyone has limits. Everyone has things that they can and can't do. So I don't look at it as a negative thing, but I also look at it as a way of establishing boundaries and just letting people know what you are able to do in your current state now that you have a brain injury, now that things are different for you, and that's okay. And it's really important to allow yourself to accept help. That is one of the most difficult things for me to do over the course of this journey of living with brain injury is accepting help from other people. But it's really important to try to do that as you're setting realistic expectations during this time. It's also really important to set those boundaries with your friends as well as with your family when it comes to what you can and can't do during this time period. It's really important to let them know, this is what I'm able to do, this is what I'm not able to do. And, you know, whether they're able to accept that or not, that's the reality. And sometimes you just have to kind of put your foot down, but it's important to have those honest conversations and let people know about where you're at and what you can and can't do during this time period as it pertains to the holidays. So it's important to plan activities that won't lead to fatigue, overstimulation, or symptom flare-ups because you want to be able to still enjoy the holidays and you can't do that if you're feeling poorly. It's really important to remember to prioritize self-care during this time. And for a lot of these subjects, you're probably going to hear me repeat some of these things, like the self-care aspect, because they bear repeating and they can also be some of the most difficult concepts to kind of keep in mind and to put into practice. So that's probably why you're going to hear me say them more than one time. And it's important to keep in mind that just because the holidays look different now, that doesn't mean that you and those around you can't still enjoy them. Just because they're different doesn't mean that it's bad or that you can't still have a good time. Really just emphasize all of that joy and the fun in creating new traditions. It's doesn't have to be a negative thing. Just because you're changing due to your condition doesn't mean that it can't still be something that's fun and exciting and joyful. So keep that in mind as you're navigating the holidays this year and every year. The next thing we're going to talk about is dealing with grief or that loss of the old traditions. That can be difficult to deal with as well. The holidays can bring feelings of grief to parents that are living with brain injuries, especially if they can't participate in traditions the way that they used to. That can be really difficult. Just like we talked about in setting those realistic expectations, once you've done that and you're kind of realizing, well, there are things that I used to be able to do that now I can't do, that can be honestly disappointing. And it's okay to acknowledge those feelings. Not acknowledging them is not going to make them go away. So it's okay to acknowledge that it doesn't necessarily feel great to have the things that you want to do be affected by your condition of having a brain injury. But setting realistic expectations about what you can and can't do this holiday season leaves room for more joy and less frustration. So, if you have gone ahead and set those expectations for what you can and can't do, so you're not having those flare ups, you're not having those negative reactions, that leaves room for fun. If you're not having, negative, excuse me, if you're not having those negative reactions during that time, then you're not going to feel poorly. It's kind of, they go together. It's important to make holidays and traditions accessible to where you are at today. That's a big part of dealing with that grief or that loss. Because again, if you put yourself in a position of where you're going to be having some negative reactions, those flare ups, then that's going to make you feel poorly physically, which can lead into feeling poorly emotionally. So we can avoid all of that if you have set those realistic expectations about where you're at and enjoy the things that you can do. So now is the time to get creative in order to modify traditions to accommodate your energy levels and your capacity. And so some examples of that would be hosting smaller gatherings rather than inviting every single person that you know, maybe just hosting a small family gathering that's realistic for what you are able to handle your capacity right now. Or maybe you participate virtually, especially if you have family that maybe lives in another state and you know that travel is challenging for you as a parent living with brain injury. Do something virtually so that you can still enjoy holidays and connecting with everyone, but it's not going to be so challenging for your physical capacity at this time. Or this one can be a little controversial, I understand, but having the gathering be catered using ready-made foods or doing it potluck style. And I know with the ready-made foods, especially being African American, that can be something that, is a big no-no, but it doesn't have to be bad. There are some good ones out there that you wouldn't even necessarily know are ready-made. You can always add your own little seasonings to it to make it be better. Or again, do it potluck style. That's a really great idea. You can say maybe I'm doing the turkey, and so everyone else bring the sides and the desserts and the drinks so that all the responsibility of trying to do everything is not on you. Managing holiday stress. So the holidays can be a stressful time period, even without a brain injury. That's kind of just the realistic expectation that the holidays can be a stressful time for anyone, really, but especially if you're a parent living with brain injuries. You can make them less stressful by simplifying your traditions. Instead of going all out, figure out ways to make them simple, streamline them, maybe make them a little less grand. You can still enjoy them, but just maybe make them a little bit more simple. You can avoid overwhelming events and activities. There are always lots of fun, big holiday festivals going on, but those can be very taxing to your sensory capacity, especially if you are living with a brain injury. So maybe avoid those kind of things that you know are going to trigger you physically. Manage your feelings of frustration. That can be a big one. If you feel yourself starting to get frustrated, think about the ways that you can manage those feelings and bring yourself down to a level of calmness. And then again, one of the biggest ones that can be really difficult, but is really, really helpful is accepting help from those around you. There are people that do want to help, that do want to make things easier for you. So try to accept that help. It's going to make things a lot less stressful for you. You can also break tasks down into smaller, more manageable steps. And this is something you're probably doing anyways in your everyday life, but especially during the holidays, this is going to be a really important tool to be able to utilize. And then again, oh, excuse me, there's a typo there. Should say pace yourself and take breaks when you need to. Again, that's something that you are probably utilizing even outside of the time of holidays, but especially during the holidays, that's something you want to keep in mind. Don't overtax yourself, pace yourself, and take those breaks when you need to. Coping with sensory overload. That's going to be the next thing we talk about. Celebrating and enjoying the holidays often means dealing with noisy, crowded environments, and this can be very physically challenging and triggering physically for brain injury survivors, but there are ways to minimize the effects of those sensory overload situations. Again, those times of the holidays, there's lights and sounds and music and people talking and smells and people touching you. It's a lot, even again, if you don't have a brain injury, but especially if you do have a brain injury, those things can be very triggering for you physically. So how do we deal with that? If you find yourself getting anxious in those high sensory environments, some things that you can do are to lean on those mindfulness techniques like breathing exercises or grounding techniques. Take a moment and take some deep breaths. Just take a moment to kind of ground yourself and get back in the present moment, kind of divorce yourself from all those sensory things that are going on in the moment and just go within. You can utilize noise canceling headphones or earplugs. My favorite ones that I have are the loop earplugs. This is not sponsored at all, but they're so cute. They look like little pieces of jewelry. I'm really grateful my brother got them for me. They allow you to still hear a certain level of noise around you, so you can hear people talking to you, but it just really minimizes how loud it is. I use them when I go to concerts. Events, movies, they're really helpful to help minimize that sensory overload. And sunglasses can help reduce the effects of bright or flashing lights. Just like that song, I wear my sunglasses at night. Sometimes as a brain injury survivor, you need to wear your sunglasses at night because there's going to be bright flashing lights, and wearing sunglasses can help to minimize, again, that sensory overload of those flashing lights. And then again, it's okay to take breaks in quiet places or leave if you need to. I know it can be difficult. I hate to leave situations, especially social situations. I hate to leave them early, but sometimes you just have to, and that's okay. Again, it's better to be able to go and stay for however long you're able to and leave before you get yourself into a negative physical situation or state. So again, it's okay to just enjoy where you're at and then leave when you need to. Planning holiday meals. This is a big one. Possibly one of my favorite parts of the holiday season. I always look forward to the family meals and planning and cooking and just having everyone involved and everyone fellowshipping together for those holiday family meals. So planning holiday meals, though, as a parent living with brain injury, may require some flexibility on your part. You might experience, again, some of that guilt or feel pressure about not preparing elaborate meals or participate in big gatherings. The simple advice is don't. Don't feel bad. That's easier said than done, but I mean, sometimes you just have to tell yourself, no, I'm not going to accept these negative feelings. I'm just not going to feel bad about it. So that can be easier said than done, like I said. But as a parent that is living with brain injury, you need to plan meals that accommodate the fatigue or cognitive challenges you might experience with food preparation. I know for me, preparing food is very challenging at times, especially with my vision problems, things like cutting up food. My eyes will start to cross, I'll get headaches. It's a big challenge for me, even in my regular everyday life. So especially if I'm planning a holiday meal for a larger group of people, that can be a challenge, and you may experience something similar. So some ways to deal with that. You can do meal prepping beforehand. Sometimes I'll do, even when it's not the holidays, I'll plan to do like chopping the vegetables, maybe I'll spread it out over a couple days before the actual meal is going to be prepared, or take a few days and prepare the meal in advance and freeze it. That can be helpful as well, so that you're not trying to do everything all at the same time, all in one day. And so again, controversial, but can be helpful. Ordering food from a restaurant or serving prepared foods. And again, you can add your own spices, make sure it tastes acceptable to you and your family. And getting help from family members. That's another really important one. Again, I might sound like a broken record, but as a parent living with brain injury, you really can't do all of these things on your own, especially during the holidays when everything's kind of amped up, everything's bigger, there's more expectations, there's more activity. You need help from other people. So when people offer, go ahead and try to swallow that pride a little bit and accept that help from other people. Excuse me. And again, having gatherings be potluck style, so all of that food preparation is not just on you. That's being spread out across multiple people. You perhaps prepare the main, and then everyone else does the sides, desserts. Again, so it's kind of spread out and everything is not all on you so that you're not being overtaxed. And then you have more energy to be able to enjoy the actual gathering. Because again, you don't want to be doing so much that you get into that level of fatigue or symptom flare-up so that then you just can't participate in the fun and all the good stuff that's going on. So these are those tools that are going to help you be able to do that, to be able to still participate and still have fun and joy with these gatherings and all the holiday activities. Navigating family interactions. Again, this can be something that we deal with even if we are not someone living with a brain injury, not a parent living with brain injury. Sometimes family interactions can be challenging, even in other type of situations and circumstances. I mean, family, you can't choose your relatives, fortunately or unfortunately, but you can choose how you react to their behaviors and their comments. That's the important thing to keep in mind. It's really important to prepare yourself emotionally in advance for challenging conversations and interactions with family members who may not understand brain injuries or living with chronic disabilities and chronic conditions and disabilities. Did I say that already? TBI moment. You know what I'm trying to say. They may not understand brain injuries and chronic conditions and disabilities. So if you are prepared emotionally to understand, okay, there's probably going to be some challenging comments, then you're going to go into it prepared for what's going to happen. It's not going to catch you by surprise, and you're going to have that kind of emotional arsenal to know how to handle it. So, what are some ways that you can prepare for those family interactions? You can prepare educational talking points about brain injury because, again, maybe they're saying these things because they really don't have the knowledge or understanding about what living with brain injury entails. There is so much more information available now about brain injuries, but a lot of people still don't know or understand or have taken the time to educate themselves about the experience of living with brain injury. So perhaps you prepare some talking points about how brain injury is actually a chronic condition. It's not the same as, say, breaking your leg, where, it breaks, it heals, and basically you're over it. Brain injury is something that's going to affect you long term. And so a lot of people don't know or understand that. So again, preparing some educational talking points might be helpful to make those family members understand about what you're going through and what your experience is as a parent living with brain injury. And then again, explaining your limitations, talking about how brain injury affects you, and oh, another typo there. Explaining how brain injury affects you and your capacity, because again, sometimes people just don't know. They don't know that brain injury is a chronic condition or that brain injury is going to continue to affect your energy levels. It affects the types of activities you're able to do, that it gives you headaches, that it makes you more fatigued. So explaining to the family members that this is the way that your brain injury affects you, that could be helpful for those family interactions as well. And then last but not least, full stop to setting those boundaries. It's okay to walk away or not interact with those family members that are committed to their ignorance. And just because you're related to someone doesn't mean that you have to take their abuses. And so, full stop, it's okay to accept setting those boundaries and just saying, you know what? And that's it. You don't have to take that on, and understanding that their negative comments, their negative energy, that's for them to deal with. It's not your responsibility to, try to change them, to try to change their minds. And so if it's getting to be too much or it's just not something that you want to deal with, especially because the holidays are about trying not to stress and just having a good time, it's okay to just walk away from the situation. That's your prerogative. Absolutely. You have the right to do that. Just because they're your relative doesn't mean you have to stay there and deal with all of that negativity. So if you prepare these strategies beforehand for making early exits from events, if necessary, as well as plans for communicating and dealing with the symptom flare-ups at family gatherings, that's going to go a long way in helping you to navigate those family interactions successfully. And then next is managing children's expectations. This can be a difficult one as well. It can be really difficult to manage children's expectations during the holiday season when changes and accommodations may have to be made due to your brain injury. Trying to explain to them why things are going to be different now, why there are certain things maybe that you can't do that you used to be able to do. Explaining those things to children can be difficult. However, it's also important to note that children are often way more resilient and flexible and capable of understanding than many adults actually give them credit for. It's really important to have honest, open, and age-appropriate conversations with your kids about why things are different now due to your condition. And you can emphasize that you will still have lots of fun and enjoy the holidays with your new or different traditions. That can be an important part of managing the expectations because if you just say, well, these are the things that I'm not going to be able to do, these are the things that basically we're taking away, that can really kind of be a downer. It would be a downer for adults as well, but especially for children. So if you emphasize, hey, I'm still the same parent that loves you, we're still going to have lots of fun. It just might look a little different this year. And so you can enjoy those new traditions like low energy activities such as watching holiday movies together. And obviously, you're going to want to include delicious snacks, cocoa, cider, whatever your family enjoys. But that's obviously goes along with that. Or some easy holiday crafts. That's another great way to enjoy the holidays with your kids. Preparing an emergency plan. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. So, the holidays can be a really overwhelming time for parents that are living with brain injuries. As we've discussed, all of these things, even in the best of situations, when you are not a parent living with brain injury, the holidays can be a very overwhelming and stressful time, but particularly if you are living with a brain injury, that kind of adds a whole nother level of things that you're trying to deal with and manage during the holiday season. So it's important to prepare yourself emotionally for symptom flare-ups and other challenges that may arise during this time. Because it's important to acknowledge that it's not just the physical, because we know that the physical things are going to flare up, but there's certainly a connection between when those physical things flare up and then how that makes us feel emotionally. I know for me, especially if it's something like a family gathering or a holiday event and I'm going and I'm super excited and I got my cute little outfit on and then I'm there and then I start to get a headache and I start to get dizzy and I have to leave and I have to tell my friends or my family that I can't participate. That makes me feel bad. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel disappointed. So if you are prepared for the fact that, okay, I know I'm going to go, I'm going to be able to stay for a certain amount of time, and then I'm going to have to leave. So for however long I'm able to stay and enjoy it, then I'm just going to appreciate that for what it is and not beat myself up emotionally about having to leave early. So again, if you're prepared for when these situations come up, then it's not going to be so difficult to deal with when it actually happens. It's important to identify those supportive family members and friends who can step in and help you and assist you if needed, not just, again, physically, but emotionally to be able to say, I'm really bummed that I couldn't stay for the whole Christmas concert. And, someone who you can kind of talk that through with, who can kind of validate your feelings and support you during those times of when, you might not be feeling your best physically or emotionally. It's also very important to have a plan in place for if you need medical assistance, as well as a plan for transportation. What's going to happen if you drive yourself to an event and then your symptoms start flaring up really badly, and then you feel like you're not going to be able to drive yourself back home. So you need to have a plan in place for what's going to happen if you need medical assistance, how you're going to transport yourself, get to and from the events or the activities or whatever you may have going on. Just making sure that you're prepared for whatever may come up for you physically. Oop, okay, I'm getting a spinning ball of death. I think I just skipped 2 pages. Just a moment. Sorry for the sniffling. My allergies are really flaring up right now. Okay, skip a page. Okay. And remember, there's no shame in taking a break or walking away from a physically or emotionally challenging situation. Nothing wrong with that. That's period point blank. There's really nothing more I can add to that. Just keep that in mind. Self-compassion and gratitude. This is another really important one. I think I've said that about every one of these subjects that we're talking about, but all of them are important. They're all going to come together to make your holidays much more easier and much more full of joy. One of the most important things to remember as you're navigating the holidays as a parent living with a brain injury is to remember to have lots of self-compassion. I hope that you just play this over in your mind over and over again. If you remember nothing else, please remember self-compassion. Reflect on the positive aspects of life and practice gratitude, even for the little things. That can be difficult. I know for me, it can be very difficult because I'm always thinking about all the things I can't do, all the things I used to do. And the holidays, it's almost like it's even that much more of a reminder of your former self and the former things that you were able to do. It's almost like it's just so much more in your face than even in your everyday life as a person who is now living with a brain injury, a chronic condition. But if you're practicing gratitude, even for those little things, it's much easier to not be so bogged down by those feelings of what you can't do and what you don't have. So this is a journaling exercise that my counselor gave me actually quite some time ago when I was doing counseling shortly after the accident. And it has two parts. So in the morning, you write down three things that you are thankful for. And then before bed, write three good things that happened that day. So again, it kind of shifts your focus from thinking about the things that you don't have, the things that you can't do, into the things that you are thankful for and the good things that happen during the day. And it can be something really small. I'm thankful for delicious coffee in the morning. I'm thankful that I have a warm bed with nice, comfortable pillows to sleep on. Three good things that happened during the day. Today I didn't trip or fall because of my vestibular problems. It could be really anything that you can think of, but again, it kind of shifts your focus into more of the positive things so you can see that you do have a lot of good and a lot of positive things that are happening in your life that you can be grateful for. Incorporate mindfulness and relaxation techniques, such as self-care. Sorry, I don't, obviously I was having some TBI moments writing these slides because I was noticing quite a few typos. But incorporate mindfulness and relaxation techniques as self-care during this time. Okay, no, it just makes sense. I just wasn't getting it. To do things like take a nap, do yoga, meditate, pray, watch a Christmas movie, whatever helps you stay calm and tension-free, and just during those stressful or challenging times. It could be, again, anything, whatever works for you, whatever you like to do. Take a bubble bath, go for a walk outside, whatever's going to help you stay calm and grounded and stress-free during these challenging times. In the words of the wise philosopher Snoop Dogg, remember this mantra. Last but not least, I want to thank me. I want to thank me for believing in me. I want to thank me for doing all this hard work. I want to thank me for having no days off. I want to thank me for never quitting. Now, if that's not a mantra for parents living with brain injuries, I don't know what is. So keep that in mind whenever you are going through this time of navigating the holidays. Think about how you haven't given up. Think about the ways that you have put in all this hard work and that you do deserve to have joy and to have fun during this holiday season. So there are some organizations that can help if things are getting, a little challenging for you. According to the American Psychological Association, 38% of people surveyed said their stress increased during the holiday season. Now, I'm no professional, and this is a, um, you know, real and serious organization, but I feel like that number is really low. I feel like it's probably much higher than that because the holidays are a very stressful time for, again, anybody, not just parents living with brain injuries. But there's also the National Alliance on Mental Illness. They have a helpline. You can text and you can also chat online if you're just feeling like you're really stressed and you need somebody to talk to. So that's an option. They also have a free guide on their website for managing your mental health during the holidays, and that is their website there on the slide. And then, of course, because I'm on their advisory council and I just know what an amazing organization they are, I have to give a shout out as the resource for the Brain Injury Association of America, which advances brain injury awareness, research, treatment, and education. And you can contact them for information about brain injury. They have webinars, there are articles. There's so much information to help you if you are someone living with a brain injury. They can also connect you to your local association, so you can get connected to the association that is there in your state. For instance, here in Arizona, we have one, and they put on events, and they also have resources that can help you locally. So that's a good way to get some assistance as well. And that's their website there on the slide as well. And then I also just want to talk really briefly about the 2025 BIAA National Brain Injury Conference and Awareness Day. So basically, each year they put on, it's the BIAA and other key stakeholders host a Brain Injury Awareness Day on Capitol Hill during Brain Injury Awareness Month in March. That's in Washington, D.C. And this year they are expanding the annual Awareness Day event to include a conference for brain injury survivors and caregivers. And I'm on the planning committee for this event, and I can tell you there are a lot of amazing things planned. It's not just the aspects of going and talking to the representatives. There's going to be social events. There's going to be some educational aspects where you can learn more about advocacy and other aspects of brain injury. So it's going to be March 3rd through 5th in Washington, D.C. And again, you can go to the BIAA website for more information about the conference, but I highly recommend that you go and find out more information about attending. Okay, getting spinning ball of death again. Spinning, it's thinking. There we go. So here's some additional information about Resilient Roots. If you scan that little, what is that called? Is that a QR? I don't know what it's called. Scan the little square there. It'll take you to the Resilient Roots website. We can get more information as well as get linked to all of these social pages, which are listed right there in the center. But if you go to the little scanny thingy, that will also take you directly to being able to just click right to there. And I'm also going to be starting a Resilient Roots newsletter soon. So you can email me at that resilientrootspwbi@gmail.com if you're interested in getting added to the email list. And you are watching this on YouTube right now, but that is the Resilient Roots YouTube site as well. So feel free to spread it around, share it with your friends, let people know even who don't have brain injuries, because one of the most important things that I'm advocating for is spreading that awareness to those who don't have brain injuries so that we can have the inclusion into regular society. Everybody should know about brain injuries, not just those who have brain injuries, but even those who don't have them. So the more education and the more awareness and the more people get involved in finding out about what goes on for us with brain injuries, the better. And so I'm going to end every Resilient Roots meeting with a quote. And this one is from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. So thank you all so much for watching this webinar, and I hope that it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, feel free to send them my way. And I hope that you all have an amazing holiday season full of joy, love, and all good things.